Welcome to Tales from the Trenches Tuesdays. Today, it is my pleasure to have Lisa Greer on board. Lisa is a fundraising coach, nonprofit changemaker, major donor, and author of the best-selling book Philanthropy Revolution. Lisa's on a mission to save giving by providing a clear path to success, supported by data, statistics, and interviews. With her help and direction, the nonprofit world will see its donors engaged and energized, their organizations sustainable and with increased impact, and a more honest philanthropic culture that will create a larger and more loyal donor pool. Currently, Lisa serves as a commissioner of the California State Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, where she sits on the executive committee. She also serves on the international board of the New Israel Fund, Alliance for Middle East Peace, and as the executive committee of the Cedars-Sinai Board of Governors. She's also served as commissioner and chair of the Beverly Hills Cultural Heritage Commission and trustee of the Jewish Community Foundation of LA, and as a board member of many organizations, including the LA District Attorney's Crime Prevention Foundation, Make-A-Wish of Greater LA, Girl Scouts, and others. She's recently been appointed to the City of Beverly Hills Community Charitable Foundation. Earlier in her career, Lisa was a studio executive at NBC and Universal Studios, and she founded and led several companies in the digital media and entertainment businesses. Lisa co-founded and sits on the board of Tandem Care Planning, a new business that elevates the home care experience for both care seekers and caregivers. A native of LA, Lisa holds a bachelor's degree in history from UCLA and an MBA from Pepperdine University. She's the proud mother of 3 millennials, 2 Gen Zs, and 2 dogs. Wow, what an accomplished lady. Welcome.
I don't like to be bored, so there.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I read your book, and it was absolutely an amazing book. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes for those that have yet to buy it, so that folks can purchase it. It's really a great read, and we'll get to that in a little bit later. So I'm sure you get calls from folks that are thinking about joining our noble profession. And so what advice would you give them to someone who's starting off, or if you could kind of go back in time, what advice would you give yourself as you were starting off in this profession?
So as a donor or as a fundraiser?
As a fundraiser.
As a fundraiser. I think for now, what I would say is the times are changing. Great stuff is happening. COVID has made people take notice of things they might not have otherwise. I think it gave them a little bit of a, smack across the face of like, come on, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And it's a really exciting time to be part of it, because you can almost write the script if you're part of that and coming into it right now, and you can do something with purpose, and you're not expected to be the poor stepchild. That it really is clear that among most people that that philanthropy is part and parcel of kind of the world operating, and you can do something that feels good, does good, pays you a decent salary, and like I said, gives you purpose. So why would you not want to do that? My advice to people, though, who've gotten to that point is try and find a place where people are open to change. And there are heads of shops who have called me over the years who are we had someone just recently from a very big organization, and he said, I'm actually redoing my entire staff, and I'm using your book as a guide of the way to do it, which is very different. And
yes.
I've had that now a few times, and it's fantastic. So I would recommend that people who want to get into this go and find places that are not about, in fact, the best way, I guess, advice I give for a fundraiser is ask how they do something. Say, well, when you're doing whatever it is, or how do you decide who gets to call who, or those kinds of things. And if their answer is, well, we do it this way, and you say, well, why do you do it that way? And either they won't answer, or their answer is, because we've always done it that way. You need to go find another place to go and find.
100%. I always say that I don't succeed in organizations where it's just maintaining the status quo. And I also don't stay longer than about 10 years, because at some point then you're just kind of maintaining the status quo, right? It's really hard to reinvent yourself that's there. But I think that's a really interesting take. So, but you brought it up, so I'm going to ask you, what about on the donor side then? What advice
What would be
would
my
you?
recommendation?
Yeah,
Yeah, I have a lot of those. And I'm finishing this book now about it's called the Fundraiser's Guide, but the next one is going to be called the Donor's Guide, because I really don't think there is a guide that tells you what to do. For some reason, it's
right,
I have some ideas of the reasons, but I don't know about an official reason. About, like, if I was giving a major gift, no one said to me, well, most people paid for that over 5 years. I didn't even know to ask the question because I didn't know
right,
that was done. When someone said, well, like, one of my big questions was, what do you do when somebody invites you to an event and you buy a ticket at their thing? Is there an obligation there? Are you obligated to buy something at the silent auction or whatever it is? Or is there a quid pro quo that goes on? Or how does that exactly work? There really isn't a class, I don't think, that you can take to learn that stuff. And yet
right,
there are, again, post-COVID, there are a lot of people who dip their toes in the water during COVID because of all the extreme situations going on. And now they want to give, and they're not sure where to do that. And they
right,
don't want to screw up. And, no one likes screwing up. So there needs to be a way to learn that. And I think the most important way to do that is to find somebody that you can have a relationship with. Maybe ask somebody, where do you give? Because a lot of people don't share where they give. People are very, very private about that, almost as private as they are about how much money they make. But if you could get friends, whatever, and say, where do you give? And this is, I think, why giving circles have become such a big thing, is you can kind of share that information and you don't have to feel like you're the chump who didn't know the rules. But the more that you can work with other people who've been doing this for a little while and learn from them, the better off you are. I think trying to do it on your own and guess can be costly. So that would be my advice.
Wow. That's great advice. And you're quite right. No one has actually kind of, I don't say written a handbook, but helped out some of these philanthropists. I think that some of us as professional fundraisers have certainly helped them, but it's kind of as a one-off as opposed to a systemic way of looking at it. So, I've had donors I've had relationships with over the years that will call me up and say, I'm thinking of donating to A, B, and C charity. What do you think about it?
Yep.
Or, so they ask that advice, but it's not necessarily based on a handbook or some rules of engagement.
Right. And I think that there are a lot of people out there at the very high levels, the billionaires. There's people who will help them, but for everybody else, there really isn't. And so I think people do lean on relationships with people who work at organizations that they give to, and try and ask them that. The sad part is that I've had people I've had discussions like that with people at organizations and fundraisers, and their bosses find out about it and tell them not to do that anymore. That they are only to talk to them about funding their organization. Yeah, which is really pathetic.
Short-sighted, right? I've actually sent donors to other organizations and said, you know what, this is what your interest is. At the moment, we aren't doing that, but this organization is. And they come back, right? It's not like, okay, we've written off that organization, and they'll come back and say, wow, we really trust this guy. And I think that's right. Part of that relationship.
There was a great story like this that happened during COVID, where this woman I think she was in New York, and she had a nonprofit that was like a pet rescue kind of thing. And she wrote, I think it was on Twitter or somewhere, linked to whatever, and she said, you know what? There's all sorts of people that need money. There's people who need food. There's people who need medical, whatever. My animals are going to be okay. I can sustain this for a while. I don't need. So if you're thinking of giving us money, go give it to this, this, or this. And what do you think happened? And guess? They gave to those and her.
Right.
They gave her money anyway. It was beautiful. Yeah, that's the lesson.
Well, and so many times people think it's a net sum zero, right? So, if they give there, then they aren't going to give here. And at least I found so far, there's more than enough money to go around.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with those top donors. No one is taking money away saying, "Oh, we aren't having dinner tonight because we're supporting the ABC charity." So that's not the decisions people are making. If it's a worthy cause, great, and it might not be the right timing for them, but they'll certainly keep it in consideration.
That's right, and you're right to say it's not a zero-sum thing. It's absolutely an important lesson.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time. If folks wanted to get hold of you, how would they go about doing that?
So they can go to my website. Thank you for asking. They can go to my website, lisagreer.com. Pretty simple. They can go to philanthropyrevolution.com if that's easier to remember. And on there, you can find my tips of the week, which I give every Monday, and I've got hundreds of them. You can like to subscribe to the newsletter, see some of my previous podcasts and webcasts, learn about the books, etc. So it would be great if people go and sign up for the newsletter. It would be great.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Hi, folks. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here.